Okay, hello everyone. Good evening. So we'll get we'll get started for today's session. Okay, as usual, quick disclaimer over here as well. Or content as well as trading ideas presented for today's session are solely based on my personal opinion. Okay, of course, they do not directly kind of like constitute to any form of trade advisory or an investment advisory, right? So just take note of that. Okay, some very quick housekeeping. And we'll basically jump into the charts in a while. Okay, so typical session over here, we're gonna have the flow over here for today is the same, right? So we're gonna look into the weekly calendar, have an idea of what are some of the important events to take note of, and if you're news trading, okay, which events are likely gonna be important for you and an opportunity as well. Then we'll jump into the charts, take a look at some of the opportunities available for this week, and we'll conclude the session right after that, and see if you guys have any questions for some quick Q&A, and I'll update you for the upcoming events within this week itself in terms of like live trading sessions and events that we're going to be conducting. Okay, so get started by looking at the events for the week. Okay, so today again, Monday is usually quiet. Tomorrow we have the core CPI as well as CPI year on year for the US side of things. That is going to be very important. Okay, we know that inflation has been coming down, which is great, but we still want to keep track on it because another rate hike is not 100% off the table. I mean, the probability of another rate hike is not very strong. We're basically expecting, you can see here on Thursday, right? We're basically expecting Fed funds rate to just basically maintain at 5.5, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it's off the table, okay? So CPI data are still going to be crucial. Again, standard things, if we have a huge deviation of the expectation of 3.1, if the data comes in like 3.3 or even 2.9, okay, so we kind of get a bit of a big difference, then that might create a volatility in the dollar itself, okay? Now, last Friday NFP didn't really create much move in the dollar itself. We don't really have a lot of surprise, or say huge surprises, okay? So overall, it seems like the economy is pretty good and things like that. So the dollar kind of like had a little bit of reaction, but did not really move off a lot. Okay, so the next CPI as well as the last Fed funds rate FOMC statement for the year is going to happen this week. So that's definitely gonna give us some volatility. Okay, especially if the CPI comes out huge difference, then that might also build into potentially the Fed may give us some surprise element. Okay, so keep an eye on that. Thursday is definitely very very important. You can see not only we have the Fed, that's happening of course in the midnight, but we also have Aussie labor market data in the morning, SNB following by the Bank of England as well as the ECB, right? So quite a lot of things are stacking on Thursday. Okay, and it's basically one after another. So it's definitely going to be a very eventful Thursday, and I will even say, very eventful week to kind of summarize the end of the year for 2023, right? Because going into like next week and the following week, we're basically going into Christmas period. Liquidity is going to drop in the market, so just be aware of that too, right? And then on Friday, we have a couple of, again, PMI data. These are definitely not as significant as comparing to like some of the bank statements and things like that, okay? So, yeah, be aware, okay? Thursday is definitely going to be a very, very eventful day, okay? If you're trading related currencies, just take note of potential spikes and volatility during those high impact news releases, okay? Good. So with that said, let's go over to the dollar index first, okay? So we kind of see like this is the development from NFP, right? Kind of get a little bit of move, but we did not really break any structure post NFP. Okay, and going into this week here, I'm looking at the perspective where if this actually comes down a little bit more, okay, potentially giving us something like that, then short term we can expect a bit more upside, right? So to give us that kind of a 1, 2, 3. Okay, so short term potential bullish opportunity. If we can get price to come back maybe towards the 61.8 Fibonacci retracement, Of course, we don't want this to come down too fast. We want this to basically come down slow. Then that will give us an opportunity for a short-term buy trade. Okay, and that will then build into this yellow degree 5-wave completed, and this would likely be a simple 3-wave push, right? So this 3-wave push, of course, depending on how the market is going to develop, it may be, I would say, a simple correction of this 5-wave for more downside, right? So this upside here can be a short-term upside and a bounce back to the downside, or this can be a start of a bigger 5-wave move to the upside as well, right? So this can be 1, 2, and then this can be 3, 4, 5, right? So it really depends on the next few days going forward, how price is likely going to develop. Okay, so look out for if the market is corrective in itself or impulsive, right? If this comes back corrective in nature, we'll still look for the buy, okay? But we'll keep an eye on certain key areas here. If you can break out impulsively to the upside, then of course that will give us a clue that this might be internal wave 3, 4, and 5, okay? So that's the dollar index perspective. Of course, then euro dollar here, if you can get a corrective pullback, inverse to the dollar index, we'll be looking for sell opportunity. Okay, so this would likely be one of the higher probability trades to keep an eye on for this week, because this move down, while it's not like very impulsive in nature, it does carry a little bit more of an impulsive side of things, right? And of course, this move to the downside has actually also taken out this low. Okay, so that kind of gives us a clue that we may see a deeper pullback, right? Especially after this entire move here. Right. So for me, euro dollar, any corrective retracement would naturally be a sell trade opportunity with certain key areas around that 50 and 618 Fibonacci. Okay. So I think euro dollar quite clear in terms of the overall structure development. You just need to wait for the setup, and then according to your strategy, you can look for the sell trade opportunity. Pound dollar here as well. Okay, now pound dollar versus the euro dollar, you can see the drop on euro is slightly more impulsive as compared to this drop here. But we are still generally slightly bearish on the pound dollar for now. If we can get a correction, okay, because if we can get a correction, then this may be a bigger 3-wave move, right? And then only maybe the next move up. But again, that's a little bit too not too concerned right now, because that's a little bit into the future. Okay, but I think right now it's more of like, can we get a correction? If we can, then we'll still look for the sell to complete 1, 2, 3. Okay, so yeah, both euro dollar and the pound dollar we're basically looking at that. Okay, Aussie here, I think short term definitely still more downside potential around the 6480. That will be the target. Again, we get this little break, to the downside, kind of developing a correction here. We kind of tested that 50% last week, have quite a bit of a decent reaction as well. So I think short term we can expect this to just come down 1, 2, 3. Okay, so look out for sell trade opportunity. You can consider a lower time frame, H1, M15. Okay, if you can get a pullback, okay, that would also be a potential sell trade, right? So direction wise on the major here, like euro, pound, and Aussie, I think quite clear, right? We're looking at the downside with some key targets in mind. Okay, dollar Canadian, short term here, we're looking at the upside, right? Of course, price actually did a bounce off, so this is looking corrective in nature, right? So if this continue to develop correctively around the area of 50 and 618 FIB again, at 1.3550 and 1.3530, that will be the area for a buy trade. And then the key area here for target is at the top of the channel. Okay, now if you can get a break out impulsively out of this yellow channel over here, then of course that opens up more upside. But I think the focus right now is just wait and see if you can get a buy first. If you can, get involved in that trade. Target here first, depending on how price is going to move higher, we definitely have the opportunity to make a more informed decision as the price approaches the top of the channel, right? Do we want to take away the targets, shift it higher, or how we're going to manage that? I think by the time the market reaches around that zone, we'll have more information that we can use to help us make that decision. Okay, but for now, the focus is do we have a setup to get involved in the buy first? Okay, so that's also a pretty clear structure on the dollar Canadian. Definitely focus on the upside, right? Now, the tricky side is of course this one here, dollar yen. Okay, I mean all the yen pairs kind of like did a bounce back, right? So if you're tracking, some updates on the Bank of Japan and things like that, it's a bit of a yo-yo, right? I kind of saw like one headline talking about how Bank of Japan are swinging from one end to another in terms of their monetary policy decisions, and that is then also reflected in the price of the yen pairs, right? Last week we kind of get a very nice little drop. Okay, there's this little setup over here, of course. We're initially looking at just the channel. Of course, it kind of broke down the channel impulsively, but the reversal came back quite strong, right? That's not ideal. Okay, but overall, on the daily point of view, nothing has really changed, right? I think overall we're still fundamentally looking forward, as well as from a macro angle. It's still downside, right? I think there's still a lot of downside opportunity back towards to retest that low at 127.20. I think there's still a very high chance that would likely happen. But of course, in the short and near term, we may see the market pull back a little bit more first, right? So what I'm looking at here is, of course, I'm just taking like swing high to swing low. Okay, potentially instead of a 5-wave structure with this pretty impulsive pullback, this may just be a very simple WXY. Okay, and again, if you can get short term this corrective pullback, we may also look to catch this short term buy, right? But overall, if we can get a 3-wave move, maybe back towards the 618, okay, something like that, then that would be a sell also. Okay, so yeah, this is a little bit tricky because as of today, we don't really have much information that we can really work on. It's a bit because this is a V shape, right? So a V shape, we often just leave it aside. Okay, so this is going to be the same as like pound yen, okay, as well as Aussie yen, right? We kind of see a V shape, so we're just going to leave it for now. Give it a couple more days, see how it's going to develop. Then only we'll really focus and see if we get anything on the yen side of things, right? But for now, nothing there. Gold, very very interesting, right? Because the article there was one article and news headline talking about how gold broke all-time high. It didn't really sustain there because once it broke, it instantly come back and kind of reverses and the entire thing. Okay, so I think gold is very much quite similar to the top process on dollar yen, right? If you're talking about long-term gold direction, I think it's still upside, right? This little move down doesn't really change much. It's probably just going to be a correction of this 3-wave move. So this may pull back maybe towards the 50% mark, and long-term is still upside. Okay, so if you're talking about like having position invested in gold related asset for the long term, then I think you don't need to worry too much about it, right? In fact, maybe the retracement right now might give you a second opportunity to add on to positions that are longer term. But if you're looking at shorter term, okay, then you may want to consider looking at the sell side of things, right? So if you can get a 3-wave correction pullback, then that will be a decent sell to complete 1, 2, 3. And that may actually come back and retest somewhere around 1940 price range. Okay, yeah, so that's on gold, right? So pretty straightforward. This week we may be kind of experiencing just a pullback and things like that. So unlikely we're gonna get kind of like a setup that we may trade unless you're kind of looking at the smaller time frame and trade the pullback. Okay, means you trade the internal of this on the shorter time frame, then that will be an opportunity available. If you're more of a swing side of things, then you'll be waiting for this pullback. Okay, so that's my take on gold. Okay, crude oil. I'm neutral right now because 5th wave here may have been completed, and if that's the case, we may see a deeper pullback. Okay, so I just need more information. Need market to give me a little bit more information to make a decision, because a 5-wave structure may have been completed, and if that's the case, the pullback here can come a little bit deeper, maybe to retest the previous high, close towards $80, right? So right now I'm just needing the market to give me a bit more information first. Okay, so that's on crude oil. S&P, we are remaining bullish. Again, I think overall equities market definitely upside. There's a very good chance we're gonna probably retest the top here, 4818. Okay, and likely going into like next year, we're gonna see that break new high. Okay, so I think equities in the US definitely quite clear in the direction, right? We're bullish on the equities going into 2024, especially with the expectation that if the Fed would indeed start to lower their rates, maybe second half of the next year, that would be pretty good for the equity side of things too. Okay, so definitely upside from a fundamental macro longer term perspective. But the short term here, you want to be cautious in buying in, right? Because again, this is pretty massive divergence. I would personally still favor more of a pullback first before kind of adding into any positions if you want to. Okay, so kind of wait for the pullback. Some key areas here potentially is the zone. Okay, change the color. Okay, let me just very quickly update that. Okay, so yeah, potentially coming back towards like this area around 4,500 zone to look for opportunities to get involved in the buy, right? So this you probably need to be a bit patient and wait for the pullback, but overall direction, I think nothing has really changed, right? Still bullish. Okay, pound Australia is a little bit tricky. Okay, so I would say you want to be patient. That is a good possibility. This may actually see a little bit bounce back towards like 1.9450. Okay, and basically the view and the perspective of this is from here. Okay, after that drop, this is our first wave, and then this is basically a triangle as a consolidation second wave, and then this would be the third wave up, right? So that's the perspective of this analysis over here. Okay, so again, we get a lot of V shapes internally here, right? A lot of like impulses. So it's not the best area and environment to be trading. Okay. However, if you can see a nice little corrective pullback here, we can still look for this as an impulse correction upside, right? Okay. So yeah, let's just see, right? See how the market is going to develop. Okay. So this one a little bit on the neutral side. Really depends on moving forward how price is going to develop. Euro Canadian. Okay. So Euro Canadian over here, we're currently developing kind of like a crawlish structure. The market as of today come down a little bit here as well, so this would probably shift a little bit lower. Okay, I think this is definitely something that we can look to trade. Okay, short-term bullishness, right? Because this move to the downside seems to be quite clear as a 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, and of course this seems to be developing a diagonal, ending diagonal fifth wave. So that will give us a complete set, and therefore we can't expect a pullback, right? And we expect this pullback to come in 3, okay, potentially going towards 50 and 618. Of course, that 50 and 618 still needs to be adjusted according to where the real bottom eventually is going to be. But rough estimation as of now is something like that, right? And we also have this key minor high. Okay, so ideally, if we are looking at a breakout trade, we want price to break above this high around 1.4650. Impulsively, right? We ideally want that to break up strong to give us that momentum to the upside. Okay, so EuroCAD is definitely one of the trade opportunity to keep a close watch. The daily structure wise, not really much information that we can work on, right? So on the 4 hour, I think short term, that's the upside that we can look out for this week. Okay. BTC finally got its little retracement starting. Okay, so over here, this is pretty impulsive in nature. So if we can get a corrective pullback here, we can expect one more drop. Okay, and then that would then maybe give us that 3-wave move for more upside. Okay, so over here, long term again, I think Bitcoin has upside potential. Also combining with the April 2024, which is next year April, we have another halving. Historically, post halving, price of Bitcoin will go up, right? That's another possibility to keep an eye on. So I would say, looking at how we are getting closer towards April next year, I would say any pullback or any buy opportunity, that's something you want to be focusing more as compared to like selling it, right? So if you're looking at short term, yes, you can trade a pullback, you can sell it, but from a longer term perspective, you do not want to kind of be too focused on the sell side of things and kind miss out on the buy opportunity, at least from the swing trade and longer term perspective. Okay, yeah, so that's my take on the Bitcoin side of things, right, in terms of crypto. Some quick alternative markets here. This is on Hang Seng, okay, HSI. So the market has been coming down right now, seems to be developing this little diagonal structure. Yeah, so this entire move may have been completing soon. Let me just change the color. Okay. Should be in a log scale. Let me just double check. Oh yeah, okay, it's already in a log scale, right? So seems like this channel, okay, on the day, this is actually on the daily scale, right? I think the daily channel is quite clear. Okay, so 4 hour, we are kind of retesting the bottom of the channel. We also have a little bit of a divergence building up, okay, here. So if you're looking at like Asia markets, this is Hang Seng, right? So Hong Kong market. There's a good possibility you may get an opportunity to the upside, right? And again, we have a very nice little 1, 2, 3 tag at the bottom. Okay, so if you look at for maybe some minor swing highs, okay, this will put you around 16300. You can look for a potential breakout to the outside, and then of course that would be a buy opportunity. Okay, so yeah, I think Hang Seng here can definitely focus a little bit more on the upside. Okay, yeah, Chinese market A50, more or less the same as well, right? We kind of have the market testing that bottom. Seems like it's bouncing off quite nicely, right? And of course we have that divergence there. Yeah, so I think Hang Seng and basically A50, more or less the same. Do look out for the potential reversal opportunity if you're into like these two markets, right? Okay. Yeah, so do expect something like that, right? Okay. This is German DAX. Kind of managed to break that all-time high. So I think again bullish, right? I think general equities except for like A50 and Hang Seng, right? Which is coming down. I think like US market we mentioned that even the German DAX you can see quite clear. But basically very bullish on it. Okay. The only tricky aspect is really the A50 and the Hang Seng, which while the general markets are going up, they've been coming down, right? But right now it's doing a little bit of a reversal sign. Okay, so if you're focusing on the Asia side of things, I think that's where you want to start looking out for buy opportunity this week here. All right. For Nikkei, oops, wrong chart. Okay, for Nikkei over here, we kind of clear this out a little bit. Okay, initial sharing, I think we were talking about how this is more or less done, and if you can get a corrective push, we'll expect the upside. Kind of pull back a little bit deeper. And then of course we still eventually get that, and the low is being kind of respected. But after this move, it doesn't really take off a lot higher, right? So kind of broke it, but not huge momentum. So I'll be a little bit careful because that gives us opens up the possibility where we may see something like that, right? So this may eventually just be a simple three-wave move. Okay, and we're looking at a bigger three-wave move here as well, right? So that may be the possibility developing, right? Which means something like this. Okay. So keep an eye on the development around the zone. Okay, of course, what you can do, you can plan out is that if this is going to be corrective in nature, you can wait for the breakout trade. Okay, so the idea is if this is going to be corrective in nature, we can see this as an impulse correction upside, right? And basically that's it. This 3-wave is done. But if this ends up doing something like that, you know, and you have a breakout trade, and this just basically continue down, then of course you'll be protected by not entering the buy. And then of course you'll be looking at a buy maybe at the bottom price here. Okay. Yeah, so that's the take on Nikkei, right? So right now, if you're looking for buy, I think then just wait for this to develop and use a breakout entry technique. Okay, that will be a little bit safer. Okay. Euro New Zealand. Okay, Euro New Zealand. Yeah, Euro New Zealand is currently testing that, right? This is on a daily scale. So if you go down to the 4-hour, okay, likely a little bit on a crawlish strike side of things, right? So definitely upside, right? I think you'll be focusing a bit more on upside for now, right? Because of this area here. Yeah, so that's the direction I'm gonna look out for, right? So from a daily point of view, we are testing that zone. On the lower time frame, we kind of have the divergence. We have the pattern here as well. You can see the divergence in the pattern here. So definitely the direction to focus is upside. Okay. Yeah. So Euro Kiwi, definitely upside, right? I think quite similar to Euro Odd. Sorry, is it Euro Odd? Just let me mention. Oh, sorry, Euro Canadian. Okay, Euro Canadian, right? So the Euro Kiwi and the Euro Cat are more or less quite similar in the smaller time frame pattern development. Okay. Euro Franc. Yeah, okay, Euro Franc I think also potentially upside because you can see this, right? We have bounced off that pretty sharp right now. So if you can get a corrective structure here, that's definitely a potential buy. Okay, and we're basically looking at the double bottom structure. Yeah, so I think not only this here, if you kind of stretch it all the way, you can see this area, right? Yeah, so Euro Franc, I think from where we are right now in the context perspective, definitely upside, right? So if you can get a buy setup, definitely you want to be focusing on a buy trade. Okay, Cat Franc. Yeah, Cat Franc, more or less also upside. But this pair you want to be very careful. Okay, you can see the nature of it. There's a lot of like wicks, right, up and down. Okay, so here as well you can see a lot of like candles up and down. Okay, you know, this entire area here you can see not easy to trade. Okay, it's just the nature of like franc related, right? Most of the franc have that kind of nature. So this one's general sense of direction, I would say you want to focus on the upside. Okay, but we don't have a very clean setup now. Okay, I mean if you compare among the Euro New Zealand, among the Euro Franc, as well as the Cat Franc, if you rank this tree, if you ask me to rank that tree, I would say Cat Franc is the least of the three. Okay, Euro Franc would be maybe the priority. Okay, and then Euro New Zealand the second, and then Cat Franc is basically something I'll least put it at number 3, right? If you kind of rank this 3 together. Okay. Pound New Zealand. Okay, I think overall it's still bullish. Yeah, overall it's still bullish, right? Because you can see on the daily scale, likely this will come back up first, right? So we're still expecting a very simple 3-wave structure. Okay, so on the 4-hour, initially we were expecting that upside already, but it did not. It come a little bit deeper. But I think overall the structure doesn't change, right? Because the invalidation level is basically here, right? So it's still respecting the entire structure itself. I think you can still expecting short term here upside. Okay, so I think Pound New Zealand is also quite similar because we are seeing something like this in nature developing. Okay, So if you zoom in, maybe going on the lower time frame, and get a little bit of a correction, then of course that will be a decent buy opportunity. Okay, back towards the top of the channel. Right, so if you use the fits, you'll be using that 1:1, right? Yeah, so that would be the take. Okay. Pound Canadian and pound Kiwi. Okay, I really don't like this pound cat development. Okay, so one thing that is quite obvious to me is this is pretty extended, right? But this move to the upside, while it's extended, it's not going very impulsive, right? A lot of like corrective nature within it. But this is definitely very long. Okay, in terms of magnitude, it's one of the longer ones compared to like this move here, right? And this is coming down relatively corrective in nature. So my first impression would be to put this as a 5-wave structure. Okay, that's my first impression, right? I think that's like the clearest of all. And of course, then this would be the invalidation, and wave 4 oftentimes will be around that 382. Okay, which is more or less almost completed. Then we would then expect a 5th wave up, right? Okay. Yeah. So if you ask, what's the primary view I'm gonna have on the pound cat, is definitely gonna be like this. Yeah, probably that's gonna be the kind of obvious take, right? So with that said, then of course, I think the shorter term perspective is upside, right? But you just want to be careful. Like wave 4 here can be a little bit complex as well. This can actually pull back, come back down again before the upside, right? So then that would develop into 1. This is potentially maybe an expanding kind of structure, and then another push down before the move up, right? To complete wave 4. Okay. So yeah, that's probably the take, right? The overall direction right now is still upside, but it's more of the complexity of the corrective structure. Okay. Kiwi franc. Yeah, Kiwi franc to me still downside, right? Okay. I mean, the entire structure here is chopping, right? So that's basically a corrective move. So I think impulse correction will likely still see one more drop. Okay. So that drop itself, let me just clean up everything. Okay. So the clearer and simpler expectation is this. This is 3-wave up. Then we kind of expect the 1, 2, 3 3-wave down. Okay, and then upside after that, right? So that's the simplest expectation of all. Right. So yeah, that would be the take on Kiwi franc. Okay. So as long as price is below this high, that's the expectation we're gonna have. Okay, so that would be a simple 3-wave pullback. Okay, so that's on Kiwi franc. Okay. Euro pound. Euro pound downside, right? So I think we are expecting the 5th wave down. I think that's likely gonna be the case. Yeah, let me just see daily side. Yeah, okay, so we have some target areas to look up for. Okay, definitely want to focus on this. Okay, yeah, so wave 5, if I can stretch this a little bit, okay, it may be ending soon, right? So this may be 4, and then with the move down here, we may be seeing 5th wave completing soon, right? So my take is definitely selling around here for this target. It may not be worthwhile, right? So the higher potential profit trade would naturally be wait for this to come down and then look for the reversal, right? That would definitely be like higher profit potential, right? It's more worthwhile. Okay. But again, I don't like this pair. Kind of highlighted almost every other time. Okay. The reason is because it's just so very. It's just chopping in itself, right? It's basically the nature of this particular pair, right? So I don't like trade pairs that are very very choppy in nature most of the time. I don't focus a lot on the franc side of things as well, because I think the franc side really difficult to kind of trade it. Okay. So if you take a look at the characteristics of things, right? You can see, uh, see how the franc likes to do a lot of wick, right? A lot of spikes here and there. Even Aussie, New Zealand, you can see it chops around a lot. Okay. Very very similar over here with the Euro pound side of things, right? It's just the nature of how this pairs are. It's not something I like to focus. All right. But anyway, that's my take on Euro pound. Okay. Silver here is definitely quite similar to gold. I think definitely a little bit more on the downside thing, right? I'm kind of expecting it to come down and have some kind of reaction at 50% mark. But seems like this is really quite impulsive. Okay, so we can then expect, because conservatively we're taking from like fib here to here, right? So looking at things here, this is dropping quite aggressive. This may actually take a look at the 618. Okay, so what can potentially play out is, again, this is impulsive in nature. I think overall, okay, silver may be a bit more tricky than gold then, because on the higher time frame perspective, if I kind of take that reference point, there might be a possibility we're gonna retest that low. Okay, but anyway, I think long term is still upside, right? It's just a matter of like the shorter term perspective, how you're gonna manage opportunities. Okay, so I would say no, there's no buy setup at the moment, right? The idea is not to buy around the 618, but if we can get some kind of like corrective move, okay, you may want to consider to sell it. Whether this sell is just gonna come back and retest this for the bounce, okay, or this sell is just going all the way at the bottom. Again, you would have time to manage that trade, okay, anyway. Okay, so my take here, my focus here on silver would be very much wait for that 3-wave corrective pullback and then focus on that sell side of things in the short term. Okay, how far this sell can go, you probably want to keep an eye on how price is going to react and develop as it starts to come down further, right? So that is something that you don't need to be overly concerned right now. Okay, but if you can get a pullback, then that would be so, right? Very similar to gold. If you can get a pullback, we'll be looking at a sell, right? At least for the short term. Okay. Aussie cat. Yeah, Aussie cat here. Okay, we're expecting a bounce off this zone, right? Around that 50 and 618. Okay, this would be the invalidation point. And let's take this away as well. We're basically expecting this to bounce one more time to the upside. Okay, essentially is to complete this structure here. Okay, the bigger degree in yellow, right? We're expecting that to complete. Yeah, so yeah, I mean the structure of this is not so crucial. This can be W, and essentially this is just building of like a 3-wave move, right? That can be orange. Okay, so if I clean this up a bit, yeah. So, oops. Okay, this can be the view of it. Okay, I mean it may take a little bit of time to really complete this, because from here you can do a simple corrective pullback, another drop, and then another push, right? Okay. So I mean, for me, when I draw this, doesn't necessarily mean that it will just come down, right? The idea again is to keep things simple, but understand that this can still develop correctively here. Why? Because 1, 2, 3, right? then only outside. Okay, but overall, I think as long as this is kind of respecting this entire nature of things, we can still expect one more push back up to complete the yellow degree. Okay, so the yellow degree would likely come and retest this, right? Again, kind of have some key zones here as well. Right, so that's my take on the odd cat side of things. Okay, yeah, so hope that's clear. Okay, good, and kind of cover quite a bit, right, on different currency pairs. Okay, so good. Last thing here before we kind of conclude today's session. Okay, this week I'm gonna resume the live trading, right? So last week I was traveling, so we didn't really manage to do the live trading sessions during the London market. Okay, so if you are not familiar, right now what you can do is you can register for a free account under everythingtrading.com, and you can actually join in some of the live trading sessions that they have for free. Okay, at least for now, right? So you can see once you created your account, you log in, this is your dashboard. You can actually scroll down and take a look at like this week, what are some of the live trading sessions, what are the live trading rooms that they have. Okay, so for English, you can see over here every Tuesday 2 p.m. Anil is also doing a session. Okay, tomorrow I'm also doing a session over here. Need to double check because usually Tuesday is in Chinese. Because usually my Tuesday is Chinese and then this is in English, but I'll double check with the team. So for this week here, Tuesday and Thursday, I'm doing the London market, right, 3:30 to 4:30. And then in the New York session, Daniel is doing on Tuesday and Wednesday. Okay. Yeah, so this is just a very quick update for those of you who are not familiar. Right now it's still free. So do maximize on this opportunity, right? Because we can't guarantee and promise that next year is still going to be free. Okay. Right, so yeah, that's all from me. If you need any assistance, in terms of like registering the account on Everything Trading, basically it's quite straightforward. Just go to everythingtrading.com and then you just follow the login. Let me just very quickly show you. I think. Do I have it? Right. Because there's like a couple of options, right? So if you click join, okay, just look for the free one, right? Because right now everything is free. Just click sign up, fill in your particulars, and then once you've done that, you log in. Okay, you actually end up exactly like this. Okay, and feel free to explore like all the features right now because they are all available for you at zero cost, right? It's free right now. But of course, if you need any assistance, just WhatsApp the Everything Trading team. Okay, so on Zoom you have the link in the chat. On YouTube you also have the link in the description box under the WhatsApp. Okay, so you can actually WhatsApp the team, and then if you need kind of any assistance, they'll be more than happy to help you. Okay, so yeah, that's all from me for today's session over here. All the best, and for those of you who are joining in during the live sessions this week, we'll see you inside on those specific days and times itself. Okay, so that's all the best, and I'll see you guys soon again. Okay, see you guys, bye bye.